Welcome into Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust. I'm Joel Goldberg. Excellent show coming up here in just a moment. I've got a guest with a lot I want to discuss about. She's going to bring some big-time energy. I can guarantee you that. Before we get started, I want to thank the good folks over at Enterprise Bank and Trust. Hashtag no stopping you. They're located here in Kansas City, also in St. Louis. They're in Phoenix. They're down in New Mexico, and they've been a phenomenal partner in this endeavor, which enables me to talk about issues in the community and enables me to be able to highlight important stories that are going on, and I'm looking forward to doing that once again here today. Also, thanks to Casey Cattle Company. Check out their website. You can order Wagyu beef. I've got a delivery coming to the house tomorrow. They'll deliver down to Kansas City. They'll deliver to all 50 states. They're veteran owned and operated. If you like burgers or steaks or award-winning hot dogs or bacon cheeseburger brats, I've been eating very healthy, by the way. Oops. But the food is really good. So check them out. CaseyCattleCompany.com. Their social media also has updates on that. If they're out of anything, just keep checking back because they restock quickly. And Johnson County, southwest corner of College and Antioch, JJ's Wine and Spirits. We were over there yesterday. Actually, my wife went over there yesterday. 15% off bottles of wine on Wednesdays. They have a phenomenal selection 7 days a week, so check them out. I have said many times that one of the privileges of this show, and I don't know if I knew what I was getting into when I started. I just knew that with this pandemic, I wanted to be able to be active. I was going to be home from baseball and not working, which is obviously still the case. Hopefully we're getting a little closer. But I just knew that it was an opportunity to highlight some stories. And then what I kind of realized was it was also a platform to have a voice, a platform to be able to discuss whatever is going on, whenever it is going on, and to have that freedom to be able to do it really on my terms. And not in the terms that send me to a commercial break or have a format that we so often, well, we always have in terms of network television. And one of the other really cool things about what has gone on recently is by being out there 5 days a week with this presence, it's really enabled me to increase my network, to meet new people that maybe I would have met at some point. Maybe I wouldn't have, but one of those people is Kiona Sinks, who I just popped up right as she was looking down. Surprise. I know, when you got a host with this long of an intro, I could put you to sleep a little bit, but one of the hardest working women in town, and she's doing it at the tender age of 25. Kiona, it's great to have you on, and I feel like, I don't want to say I feel like I've known you forever, but I feel like, if we've just gotten to know each other in the last 3 weeks, I don't feel like I've only known you for 3 weeks. And you reached out to me. I mean, actually, you were commenting on some of the podcast guests that I had. And I like to try to pop those up. You always have some great comments. And then suddenly I get this Instagram message because, your generation only messages by Instagram. And you just basically said, hey, I was wondering if you'd come on my podcast. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to. I recognize the name. You commented. And you also, in a day and age where everybody's always asking for demanding stuff, it was like the most professional breath of fresh air with how we're all getting hit up. And so that sort of started this little friendship here. And you've just blown me away with everything you're doing in the community. So that is a very long way of saying welcome to Rounding the Bases Live.
Well, thanks for having me. I feel kind of awkward because typically I'm watching the show right now. I literally carve out time to watch your show. I learn a lot from the guests that you bring on, and so I feel quite honored to be here today with you.
Well, thank you, and we have a lot to discuss. And, like I said, the beauty of this podcast is it can go 25, 30 minutes. It can go 45, 50 minutes. It doesn't make a difference. What I know is that with everything going on, and I want to first and foremost say, when I say racial injustice is going on, that doesn't mean it's just starting. It means that there are a lot of people like me that are better understanding it that didn't understand it before. I already have a message, by the way, and I'm so glad that she chimed in because I did not get a chance yesterday to say happy birthday to the amazing
Oh my God.
McGee.
Yes,
right?
that is my girl. Love her. Love her. Love her. Hey sis, what's going on?
So happy birthday, Angel. She's
Yes,
29. She's 29 again, right?
fabulous.
How is it possible that she's past 29? Angel is also one of the hardest working people in town. I had
Absolutely.
Angel on the podcast a couple of years ago, and really I met Angel back when she was about the age that you're at right now, or maybe a
Yeah.
little bit before that. And by the way, you guys are all, you ladies are all still very young. I'm the old guy here, but um, there's so much when Angel says that you are the
Mm,
hardest working woman that she knows. It's because every time I look up, you're in five places and you're doing five things. And I'm sure it feels like one, there aren't
hmm
enough of you. And two, it probably feels like you still got a lot of work to do. I know I'm right on that one, but where's your mind
hmm
at right now?
Man, it's all over. Kind of just what you kind of hit the nail on the head. There's so much going on in our world. There's so much going on in our country. It's so much going on in Kansas City as it relates to social injustice, as it relates to a lot of things that are shifting in our communities. Whether you're in Overland Park, whether you're in Shawnee Mission, Kansas, whether you're in Lee Summit, whether you live here in the metro like myself, things are happening literally as we have this podcast right now.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to have conversations with people who are in prime time positions to articulate the things that we need as Black people here in Kansas City. It's a lot happening, and so I feel like there's a lot going on, not just with the world, but personally myself. I moved into my here at home like right as the city shut down when Mayor Quentin did that in early March, and so I've had some time to unpack a few boxes, make it home, rest, be here, reflect, think about my future and the next steps for me as it relates to what I want to do in the next 6 months to a year. And just excited to, chime in any way that I can. Thank you for your comment. There's a lot of hardworking women in Kansas City. I'm just one of many. And so I take pride in just, what I do, and I'm very passionate, and just know that God is leading every step. I'm just putting one foot in front of the other, and it just feels like I'm just grooving. So what
You're,
seems like I'm in many places to most, I feel like I'm in one fixation of just like I'm flowing. I'm flowing.
I know you are. I feel you too. Did I not text you like 3 hours ago saying I needed some coffee to wake up? And 3 hours
Yeah.
later, I'm still drinking this coffee. So, it's the way
Me
it
too.
goes. Uh, the messages are already pouring in, and I suspect that a lot of people with your outreach on social media, with mine,
hmm
will be tuning in live. Many will watch later. You talk about
Yeah.
hardworking women in
hmm
town, and I'm just getting to
Oh
know
yeah.
a good friend of yours who was a panelist on this podcast last week, and we'll
Yeah.
reconvene that panel next month because, quite frankly, I had to run to go do a speech in this virtual world we're living in where you can slide from a podcast to a speech 2 minutes later. And I think we did about 40 minutes. Nicole
Yeah.
Jacobs Sylvie, Chandra
Mhm.
Clark, and Andre Davis, and it wasn't enough. It was just a start. I think that,
Mhm.
gosh, Kiona, there's so many directions, and Nicole, thanks for watching. Also, Becky Wilson has been
Oh yeah.
chiming in lately. Miss Sinks is bringing her own brand of leadership and energy to Kansas City. I love that because you are, as I've got to know you a little bit, you are so, and this is so obvious, but you are so you. I mean, it's just like I sense just an authenticity to who you are as a person. There are so many million directions I want to go in this interview, and as is the
Okay.
case in my scattered brain, who knows where exactly it's going to go in what order, but we'll
For
get to
sure.
as much of it as we can. But I want to go back to your background a little bit and how you
Mhm.
became, if activist is the right word, and
Yeah.
I view you as an activist, but I don't think it's too simple just to call you that. We
Mhm.
just sometimes I think we like labels because we want titles, and
Mhm.
I could probably come up, and everybody watching could come up with a lot more than just activist. But I know that what you told me is that when you went off to college, it wasn't
Mhm.
with the thought of being an activist or anything like that, and
Yeah.
everything changed for you pretty quickly. So
Mhm.
tell me about the mindset of going as an athlete and coming out as an activist.
Yeah, man. Uh, graduated from Central Methodist University or Hickman High School in Columbia, Missouri. So that's where my family, my grandmother, she's there right now. She's probably at home watching noon news, I'm sure. My aunts and uncles and cousins, you name it. When I graduated from Hickman and made the decision to go to Central Methodist University, which is not too far from Columbia, it's about 30 minutes east. You probably would just tailor off if you're going to Kansas City, except you just kind of tear off and go into the neck of the woods, as we would say. Very isolated in the middle of nowhere. Of course, you're looking at me and people who resemble my skin color, which made about 7% at the time of the campus. And so when you talk about seeing yourself in the college, that it was there, but it wasn't there. Of course, sadly enough to say, I wanted to run track, but in the process of that, the same current or climate of our country right now was the same in 2014 when Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin lost their life as well to police brutality. And so, all these things are happening. At the time, I'm like 19. And I'm just like, man, this is like the elephant in the room. It's almost like it's awkward. Like nobody's addressing this. Was on an academic scholarship here in Kansas City through the Greater Kansas City Foundation. The Brandmeyers have been really supportive of my education currently now as I'm getting the master's at UMKC. And they said, hey, Kiona, we got 2 things we need you to do while you're getting this undergrad thing. We need you to come back here to Kansas City, build relationships, meet people. And then we need you to maintain that 3.0 as you run track. And I was like, okay, I could do that. So we made it work. I built great relationships with them. I was at Centurions events before I knew what Centurions was. I saw Joe Reardon talk about, KCI before I knew that was a big thing in Kansas City. Came to some of the Royals games before I really knew like the essence of what it meant to be a Kansas City Royals fan. So really Kansas City became home away from home as I was going back and forth and kind of fulfilling the obligations of this scholarship. What I thought was I'm just trying to get through college. I'm just trying to run track. I'm eating ramen noodles. I'm taking naps. And the guy was like, nope, we got other plans for you. And we about to get this thing started. And so from there, make a long story short, Mizzou had a lot of protests at the time. They grabbed the attention of the nation, all over CNN, all over the news. And Tim Wolf resigns, right? That's a huge deal. He's decided, hey, I ain't trying to address this racial equity thing and the systematic oppression of people of color here within education. I'm out, and maybe not, right? But he resigned, and so right then and there, I was sitting in class when I got that CNN alert. Central Methodist is a university that I'm proud to say that I graduated from there. But at the time, we had some things that was not great. As an institution, we were showing Remember the Titans and the Pursuit of Happiness for Black History Month. And we all know that that's not a true representation of what Black people have contributed to society. And so my mentor at the time said, well, Kiona, here's the thing. You're coming back and forth to Kansas City. You are getting all this exposure. You're learning community partnerships and engagement and how to put things together foundationally. Now it's time for you to go back to Central Methodist and start this African American Student Union. And I was like, I'm not doing that. There's no way. I went to class the next day. Tim Wolf resigns. My teacher really didn't see eye to eye with why he had to resign. He wasn't for Black Lives Matter. He didn't really understand the whole concept of why people were protesting and didn't think that students deserve that right. And he said in front of everybody to me, Kiona, what do you think about all this stuff that's going on up the road? And I just simply said, well, I think it's an unfortunate situation that deserves a conversation amongst many people. And I walked out of class because class was over, thank God, because I don't know what would have happened if it wasn't. And it was awkward. And I picked up the phone, I made a phone call to Kansas City and said, I think I'm ready to do this whole change my campus type thing. Okay, where do I start? And I sent the email to the president of the university, who's still there today. And from there, my life changed drastically.
It's an amazing story. All of that at what, 19?
Yeah, I was 19 18, 19, because 2015 or 2014 I would have been like 19.
It ends up being a critical moment, I think, because, you could have gone 2 ways there, and you spoke up and you made an impact, and obviously that was a springboard to where things are today and where they're going, which I think is sky's the limit. But, and who knows, maybe you would have got there through a different path or a different timeline, but certainly it sped things up for, at that point,
Mm-hmm.
still a teenager.
Yeah.
Growing up in Columbia, not, I would say, a place in this country that is known for having a very large population of people of color.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering what your perspective was growing up,
Mm-hmm.
and if you felt as a kid the racial injustice that I'm guessing you saw and experienced on a regular basis
Yeah.
would lead to you being someone that had a major voice.
You know, my grandparents raised me. My mother, she had me in high school, her senior year. She's a huge track athlete for Jonesboro High School. You can look it up. To this day, she probably still holds some of the records there. Her, my two aunts were the Sink sisters. So if you had to run against them, pretty much you didn't want to do that. And you know, obviously, she was very fortunate to have my grandparents step in and say, "Hey, you know, you finish this out, the senior year out. We're gonna take care of Kiona." They call me Puda, and they said, you know, we're not gonna put her in daycare. I'm the first grandchild, so she broke the spell. You know, so I'm my first aunt's niece. I'm just the first everything. I'm getting spoiled. But looking back and listening to her, you know, I didn't realize it, but we lived in a really nice neighborhood. So think of like the Shawnee Mission, Kansas of the world, you know. But we were the only Black family that lived on that block. And I think to me that spoke volume. It speaks volumes now. My grandmother wanted to make sure that I had the best. You know, she taught me to say, yes, sir, no, ma'am, you know, and so forth and so forth. And she experienced a lot of racism that, you know, unfortunately, you know, it put her through a lot of hoops, but she made sure through all of that she provided a life for me. To this day, it shows in everything that I do. She is the essence of my foundation and teaching me life principles and applications of how you conduct yourself, you know, building confidence, being proud of being a woman of color. Obviously, she's older, and so, you know, you lose some of those things. But for now, I mean, I feel like absolutely, you know, to see where I am now, the foundation and the essence of who I am definitely came from her. And looking back and not understanding, you know, why was she at every soccer game or why was she at every basketball game, you know, because those are things that, you know, Black people do too. But unfortunately, sometimes we're not viewed that way. You know, we don't do little league. We don't do the whole pickup from school. You know, I still remember the day before school picture day, her and my grandfather would wash my hair. Like I would be in the sink in the kitchen and they would take turns, like, because I hated getting my hair washed, and she would just, all right, come on, we got to get this done. And they would just do the whole thing. And so, I mean, they just really, Joel, they really loved me. So I didn't grow up seeing it, but now that I'm older and I sit down with them and hear some of the stories and I look at her afro and how that was a signature of protest back, just a lot of things, she went through it. And so I think it says a lot about her and how she wanted to make sure, yet I live this life of there is no color. You know, the color of your skin doesn't matter. Like the opportunities that are in front of you are endless. And that's what she did for me.
Of course, the flip side of that, well, first off, I got to go back to something. The nickname? Tell me about the nickname.
I have no idea. Like if you were to come around, like if we had a barbecue here in Kansas City, my family comes up here, nobody's calling me Kiona. Everybody here in Kansas City is gonna call me Kiona. People in my family are gonna say Kiwi or Puda. They're gonna say, hey, Puda, can you grab me the hot dogs off the grill? Can you grab me and people are gonna be like, who the heck is Puda? Like, but she's been calling me that for 25 years and she does not stop. So I don't know, something her and my grandfather came up with, and it just has stuck. And now I'm 25 and I still get called Puda.
Well, guess what? You're gonna be called that when you're 30 and 35 and on too. At least by family. That's a beautiful thing. So no, I mean, I was thinking about, you know, how you said you didn't see color, and you know, so many, I believe, of us, and by us I mean I'll just say people like me, and I don't mean all whites. I mean at least people like me that were raised by their parents or their families or those around them to quote unquote not see color, treat everyone the same way. And so to me, and I think that there are a lot of people in my shoes now that feel the same way, we somehow felt like, well, if we treat people equally, if we treat everyone like human beings, then that means that we don't see color and everything, at least from our standpoint, is okay. I hear someone say the N word, that's not okay. I hear someone discriminated against, that's not okay. I understood all of that. What I didn't understand, and I've said this in other conversations on this podcast, I'll continue to do it because I think it's important, is that I didn't understand what white privilege meant. And what I didn't understand was what it must be like as someone of color,
for sure,
to walk into a room where everyone else was the same and that you were different. So let's just say that maybe 10 times in my life, I don't know the numbers, I've walked into a room where I'm the only white guy. We're talking about, significantly less than 1% of we're talking about like a second of my life. But
for
yet,
sure.
Most people of black or brown skin have lived with that every moment of their life or most of their life. And so, you talked about not really seeing color as a kid, but what was normal in your head? Because if you were in a white neighborhood and this was your normal, what in your head were things supposed to look like?
I mean, I kind of have a split life because, after my grandmother, got a little older and got a little ill, you have to grow up much faster and adapt to this new life of, sometimes you don't eat, sometimes, you're not getting the things that you need, the support from a parent standpoint to push forward. And that's a part of my life. And so I can't forget that either. But I really, truly think looking back, a lot of people, and it's human nature, we see, people look great and we see Joel on Fox and, he's promoting for the Kansas City Royals, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we all have a story in somewhat a shape that it's not how we started, and so when you just talk about like what I expect, I mean, I think that's the cool thing. I didn't really expect anything. My grandmother just said, hey, like, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go outside, you're going to play, you're going to do these flashcards, you're going to learn your timetables. I hated her for that. Love her for it now. You're going to, I just look at all those things and what we as Black people know, and we have these conversations all the time. It's just like the Amy Coopers of the world, dog ownership, or we're not supposed to own dogs, or, we're not supposed to live in nice neighborhoods, or, if I walk outside, my neighbor just turns the other way because I don't belong here. So I don't know. I think for me, I really had no expectations because for me, she just focused on loving me. Now we have those conversations because I think she wanted me to just be a kid, which unfortunately a lot of Black and brown kids don't have that opportunity to do so.
Right. So you had that opportunity. It's not white privilege, but I think that you were at least afforded some opportunities that so many kids don't have, and that's obviously a blessing and helped shape you to who you were. I want to continue the discussion, although the comments are coming in and out. I like it. Nicole said that activist, community advocate, leader, motivator, thought leader. Angel actually echoed that. You'll like this one. Proud track coach watching. What a great leader. And then another thought from Nicole, we see color, everyone does, but as very young children, we didn't know that our skin color meant we were considered less than in some people's eyes. You gave me a phenomenal resource the other night, and it's been one of the cool things. I mean, you and I have been, texting and messaging on a very regular basis since we've become friends, and I'm grateful for that. But I said to you, I want to come to church some Sunday when times are safer in terms of the
Yeah.
pandemic. This is a strange request from a Jewish guy
Mhm.
who, typically, well, doesn't go to church, right? I mean, that would make sense. And I just wanted to get a better feel, for what's
Mhm.
going on and hear from leaders and hear perspective. So you sent me some videos
Mhm.
of your pastor,
Mhm.
uh, which were amazing.
Yeah.
And there I am sitting in bed the other night. So you got like the Jewish guy laying in bed listening to the white evangelical pastor interview the
Mhm.
pastor of a black church.
Yeah.
So AD3, who I'm now, like I already told you, I need to meet him, and I'm going to get him on the show because
Yeah.
I played some of the. I told you I kind of I edited some of the highlights down like from an hour to about 8 minutes because I wanted to be able to have that as a resource to show to my kids, to my
Yeah.
wife, to friends, and say, hey, just watch this because it's going to give. And
Mhm.
he's a phenomenal preacher. I'm sure. I mean, his energy,
Definitely.
but his messaging is like, okay, if you don't understand this, listen to Pastor 83, and you're going to understand it after that.
Yeah.
And it just like it was a continuation of my awakening to everything that I was missing as someone that always treated people fairly, if that makes sense. Like it
For
wasn't
sure.
enough. I'm grateful for the way I was raised, but I needed to be able to go deeper, and I feel like I'm just starting to get there now.
Yeah.
And I feel like the pastor from the other church
Mhm.
was so good in just putting things on a tee for your pastor and just letting him go, and then being
Mhm.
able to bring that back to his church, which I'm sure is mostly all white,
Yeah.
evangelical, and saying, here's a perspective that you may not understand. Here is a
For sure.
perspective of why Black Lives Matter. And it was so eye opening to me because it it was seeing things through someone else's eyes and perspective, which I think we
Mhm.
all always need in life anyway. How much are you seeing right now growth in that category? Meaning people that didn't understand before, either starting to understand or wanting to understand.
Yeah. For me, it's a 50-50 split, and I think I look at it from a different perspective because you got to think my friends we're in our 20s, late 20s and early 30s, and there's still two perspectives of the civil rights movement, some to which that they don't even, it's like, if we don't teach it at this point, it's like my nephews and my future kids are not going to know who Dr. King is. So like that, for them, some people are just learning what Juneteenth is. Some people,
Mm-hmm.
I was having a conversation right before I got on with you. It just found out about Emmett Till. So it's like now that the awakening of not just our country but our community and our coworkers, and now seeing CEOs saying, "Hey, I'm going to give my employees, paid Juneteenth off." It's like I
Mm-hmm.
feel like everybody's like awakening, and then there's just some people that's just like, I don't get it. And so when we say Black Lives Matter, we're not saying your life doesn't matter. We're literally saying Black Lives Matter. Like all lives can't matter until Black people stop being shot and killed on the street. All lives cannot matter until my brother, who's 21, can walk in the park and be safe and not have to worry about the Amy Coopers of the world getting the cops called on them. So that's what we mean when we say Black Lives Matter. It's not an implementation of, your life doesn't matter and my skin is better than your skin. It's not that. It's not a political statement. It's literally getting our white allies to understand the significance of Black lives have never mattered historically, and here's why we still matter, because we're still being gunned down and shot and killed.
I loved what your pastor said, and I took some notes. That's kind of how I
Yeah.
edited the thing together because I had because you had said afterwards I want to discuss it with you. We haven't fully discussed it, although
For
um,
sure.
I think you'd find it interesting. I should send it to you the 8 minutes worth of video that I clipped because it were
Mm,
the ones that just made me go, oh,
yeah. Yeah.
whoa, going into a Target with a 4-year-old daughter and not seeing a doll. She wants a doll that looks like her. And the burden that has on a child and then a lifetime, of that. That's the white privilege that I never had to think of before. He talked about white privilege. He talked about white fragility. He said, and I wrote this down. He said, I have to explain everything. He said, we need people to stand who don't need an explanation. That one really resonated with me because it was like, when I hear my black friends say, I'm tired, I think many of us in the past thought, yeah, you're tired because of, say, the police brutality or, moments like that maybe got some coverage.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand the being tired part was having to explain, having to justify, having to, that's something that I don't know. He called it a double consciousness, living two lives. You already just mentioned about potentially living two lives. I don't have to live two lives.
Yeah, I mean, white privilege is simple. It's affording you opportunities to not have to consider the everyday average rights and privileges that Black people aren't afforded maybe the same access. And so that's just based on the color of your skin. It's simple. That's white privilege. You are unconsciously given access to things and you're treated a certain way in particular spaces that deemed for people and that's tailored towards you. And I think a lot of people, quite frankly, great, you're starting to, do things different. But Joel, I tell you, a lot of Black people in the community are like, man, what were you guys doing before May 25th, before that 8-minute clip? Because we have a lot of great people in our community here in Kansas City that are doing some amazing things for our city. And they've been talking, they've been speaking up, they've been serving on your boards, they've been putting together implementations and strategies and plans to further missions and visions and community partnerships and crossing racial lines and barriers. So it is, insulting when the catalyst of George Floyd's death has everybody asking questions that, quite frankly, we didn't give y'all the answers to the whole 10 years that we've been here, or that, that we've been knowing you, or we've been serving on your board. And so I think when you hear Black people say we're tired, we're literally tired. Like, we're just exhausted. Like, let's just start there, exhausted. So we are, starting to consider, if you want me to serve on your board, what are you literally doing for Black people? What are you doing that is not embedded in continuation of the oppression of Black people? And until you further can see that, and until you can understand that I literally go home and I have kids that is going to have to live in this world and adapt to practices that are not here to serve them to their fullest potential. It makes you think different. And I think that's what's happening right now. I mean, it's even more, probably greater than it has ever been in our country and here in our community in Kansas City. We're starting to see changes, with the petition of J.C. Nichols found being changed. That should have been changed, quite frankly. Now, am I glad that we are changing and we're making the strides? Absolutely. We need no more listening sessions or, hey, can I pick your brain? We already know what we need to do. So now we need to see policy change. And until policy changes, that's what's going to get, Kansas City great. And I've told this to my friends, Kansas City is a great place to live. It's a great place to raise your family. I love Kansas City. I want to stay here. And I hope I have a future here in the next 5 to 10 years, but we're not there yet. We haven't seen Kansas City at its best. And so until we start moving the agenda on particular things, we got work to do. We got a lot of work to do.
A lot of work to do. And I like to say it this way, that just to have a discussion, just to make a donation, just to say, okay, we're giving everyone off to honor Juneteenth, and those are all great things.
It's great. But it's wonderful.
just to have a panel last Friday to talk about race. That's great. And I'll say what I said to my panel that day. I'm not looking for credit. I don't deserve any credit for this. I don't want any credit for it. my point is it's not enough just to check a box.
For sure.
So, okay, I've been moved by everything that is going on. I feel moved to speak out more.
Mm-hmm.
I like what Pastor 83 said, that it's not racist or not racist. It's racist or anti-racist. So
For sure.
I need to move. I was always not racist. That wasn't enough. And
Mm-hmm.
so to me, let's keep having these discussions, because you know what? This show and this podcast is really all about storytelling, personalities, hope, adversity. So that's what I'm doing. But
For sure.
I don't need to and don't want to sit there and say, well, we discussed this last week, so I guess we're good now. It's,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so I think that it has to be more people that are involved. Everyone. I mean, this whole garbage about, well, what about all lives matter? That's never resonated with me, because I always felt like, and I remember saying this to my wife maybe a year ago, like when I'd hear people
Mm-hmm.
debating Black Lives Matter. Well, what about all lives matter? And it's like, wait a minute. No, okay, how about Black Lives Matter too? You know,
For
how
sure.
about, you know, we're not saying any lives don't matter. I saw something on social media, I feel like it was earlier today, I don't remember who it was. It said, when someone's drowning in the deep end of a swimming pool, the
Mm-hmm.
lifeguard doesn't say, well, I better worry about everybody else too.
Exactly.
You jump in, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
all everyone in the pool. No, you go. So there's nothing about Black Lives Matter. I can't say this enough to my white friends that don't get it. And shoot, there are enough really prominent people in this world that are still fighting over this, that that the term Black Lives Matter is not saying others don't. And I guess my question to you, as someone with a voice in this community, as someone that's an activist, how do we all better explain that to people that are hung up on something that to me is idiotic?
Yeah, well, first things first, with you know, the sentiment of what Pastor talked about, you know, you're either racist or you're anti-racist. I think what we're going to find is a shift here in Kansas City. You're going to start, people have to choose at this point, you know, whether you agree or you don't. And we're going to start seeing more authentic, trustworthy communities that are going to be putting money and dollars and resources, right? Because at the end of the day, money moves policy. And so what you're about to start finding is people about to be getting voted out, organizations not about to be getting endorsed. I don't care how you look at it. If you just a massage therapist, people ain't gonna use you. You know, like, it's because we are relationship driven. Like, we support the people behind the causes and what we envision and how we see ourselves in which the community we serve. And so I truly believe, if you have not gotten it by now, you need to read, and we cannot do that for you. You know, you need to. I'm even reading. I don't know it all. I got a lot of life to live, but I'm very fortunate that I have friends, you know, mentors, people I can call on to say, hey, like, I don't understand this, or what do you think about this? Like, how can I apply this more, or let me tweak that part a little bit. So I think that's where we're at. You know, you wouldn't understand the significance of, you know, why it would have been very insulting for Trump, you know, to, you know, have a rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where the Black Wall Street was prominent for Black people in America. So when you understand that, like, instead of just saying, well, you guys are just tripping, you don't understand. No, there's a historical tie to everything that's going on. And so if you really pay attention, it's no coincidence, you know, that happened, that location was picked, you know, in 45, and what he endorses and what he says. And we see a league today that black ball, in my opinion, still could be better than most quarterbacks in our league. And as you know, we hear it all the time at the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum when Bob talks about it. You know, history always sides with the athlete. And so the very league that pushed Colin Kaepernick out is now saying, we want it. We want every team. We want any team. And it's like, you can't just do that. You can't just say, oh, well, now we're for social injustice. That's what this whole thing was about to begin with. It was a military individual personnel that said, hey, kneeling is the most honorable thing you could do. And he did that. And I don't know how the flag got involved in it, just like I don't know wearing a face mask has become so political.
Right.
It's like it's those like those lines that I'm just like, people are just not, they're not getting it. We make things into what we want them to be. And quite frankly, some people who have not reached the anti-racist yet, they're alt-right, they're still there. Well, I just don't understand. Well, we don't have time to explain it to you. The best way I can tell you is people are dying. So while you still not understanding, we got a whole sector of the world and the community that is literally needing to continue to move forward. And so I think the best way that people can start using their voices, their platforms, is you're doing it. When social distancing like kind of eases up later this year, there's going to be tons of things that people are going to try to do. Now, the 6 month to a year game is where we see who is still in the game. So when you was posting Blackout Tuesday, are you still implementing Blackout Tuesday policy? And how does that look 6 months from now? And that's going to be the true determining factor to see organizations, people, and how they conduct themselves for change. This can't be another like, oh my God, like an interesting moment for everybody. This is nothing to play with. This is some serious stuff that we're all like dealing with. And so at bare minimum, if you don't know what to say, just don't say nothing at all. If you don't know what to do, don't do nothing at all. Get behind a cause, get behind a trusted individual in your community, and just push whatever they got and grow from that, and seek knowledge and see where you can insert yourself to be an effective part of the change.
A couple more comments coming in. None of us are free if one of us is chained. I know we can't get everybody in things together. We're always going to have our disagreements, but I mean, let's remember that we're all human beings. I mean,
for sure.
You know, in the simplest terms, Kaylee Knox says the shift is happening. I'm here to listen, link arms, and lift you up. Hashtag Team Kiona. I like that. Let's get that hashtag going too.
Yeah. And I here on June 29th, I'm going to do a White Allies workshop. You know, my Instagram followers, you know, I used to be private. You know, my life used to be, I ain't trying to let everybody see. Yeah, I ain't trying to let everybody be in my business, you know, and what I do, but we're here. And so I feel a responsibility to, you know, the time that I do have. And, you know, COVID-19 has kind of given us that flexibility that if you want to work, you probably can't. Or if you want to do this, you probably can't, because COVID-19 has shut everything down. But to really like educate and use my shared lived experiences and things here in Kansas City to be able to tell them like, this is probably not a great time to like pull out your phone and like, you know, just start texting every Black person and asking, you know what I mean? Like, let's do some work. Let's get some education. Let's get some book recommendations. How do you build authentic relationships when it comes to white allies? Because for so long too, Black people have been like, no, we're gonna keep you over there, you know. So it's almost like this rebuild trusting thing as well. But when you talk about it from a perspective of someone that's 20s, you know, mid 20s, whatever, it's a different gap, at least for me, and what I'm getting in my inbox and messages and emails, that people are they're desperately needing something, just something to be able to talk about or talk through or listen to. So,
well, it's got to be maybe not equal parts, but one part maddening and infuriating, which you've already covered. Like, hello, we've been here. This is what we've been saying, and no one's been listening. Versus, hey, maybe there is some change that's starting here, and it's way too late. And absolutely, it's worth talking about why this didn't happen before. I'm not saying, okay, now that it's starting to happen, let's forget about the past. There was so much missed here. There's a deeper discussion too about, you know, why did the league go the direction it did with Colin Kaepernick and now it didn't? And you know what that was all about? It was about money. It's usually about money. But what was so beautiful to me about that was that a group of prominent players, all of color, spoke up and challenged the league and the commissioner. Like on one side, you've got the sponsorship money side. Well, if they do this anymore, we're not and the league caved to that. And on the other side now, you have the Patrick Mahomes of the world
for sure.
the Tyrann Matthews of the world, I'm talking at least from the Kansas City standpoint,
Yeah.
that stood up and said, this is what we're going to need you to do. And he did
Yeah.
it the next day. Now, I would say now it's put up or shut up time. He said he's going to do it. And by him, I mean the league,
Yeah.
and the commissioner. Now let's see what it's worth. What happens when players are kneeling down? What happens when they have another decision to make? Are they really in, or are they not? We'll see it. But that was, to me, a 24-hour period that was amazing, because these very prominent, very influential athletes banded together in one of the most amazing videos ever, which, by the way, if anyone hasn't seen the story, came, I think, from a kid from the Kansas City area that was working for the league, and he had this idea, and he kind of went rogue. He sent, here we go again, a private Instagram message, to a wide receiver for the New Orleans Saints, and said, hey, what do you think about doing this? And the two of them kind of put this together. The player went out and recruited a lot of his, colleagues and, fellow players. And this kid from the league didn't even have permission from the league. He knew he might lose his job. I think it was a white kid too. And suddenly within that 24 hours, Roger Goodell, one of the most influential people in all of sports, is sitting in front of a camera reading word for word what they said they wanted to be done. We've never seen anything like that before. Does something like that, I keep asking guests during this discussion about hope. Does something like that give you hope, or what does give you hope?
I think what gives me hope right now, Joel, I know you're like with the sports world. What gives me hope is when I see Patrick Mahomes put on a 1945 or 42, I don't remember, Satchel Paige jersey. To me, that's more than sports. Yeah, the jersey's cool and people bought it, and the New Orleans Baseball Museum got a lot of sales off of it. Patrick made the Black Lives Matter video, or Matthew got on, and he's been doing that, right? Like, he's been like hosting drives and like giving back to kids and like donating his time, showing up, on Hot 103, our most Black predominant radio here in Kansas City. So we've been hearing his voice, and now all of a sudden, it's like, oh, well, he's just now doing this. No, like, he's been doing it. But that gives me hope, people like them who are in prime time positions, and I'm speaking here for Kansas City, that are doing the due diligence to ensure, like, man, there was a point in time Joe Buck couldn't go on the plaza, like 18th and Vine and 12th and Brooklyn and Ollie Gates, that was it for us, and so to see, or Mr. Sherman, who's now the owner of the World, and push, like, hey, like, we stand with the Black Lives Matter. We understand the significance and the importance of, what's going on in our country. I think that, like, somebody who still has so much life ahead of me, that gives me hope. But on the other flip, I'm like, all right, Roger, all right, Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys, I'm gonna need y'all to get y'all stuff together. I almost said the other word, because it playtime's over with. Like, what we about to do? If the NFL about to start back up, to your point, are we gonna really? Do you really care about Black Lives Matter? Do you really care about George Floyd dying on national TV for 8 minutes? Do you really care about that? That was a human body that died, that we witnessed murder on national TV. Do you really care about that? We're about to find out. We're about to find out here in the next month or two, or whenever they start back up. So we'll see. It's a 50-50 thing, because right now, the test is in time right now. We got to give people time and see where things go. But I'm hopeful for my generation. I'm hopeful for the Angel McGee's of the world. I'm hopeful for the Wesley Hamiltons of the world. I'm hopeful for Ryan Harvey's of the world. People who here in Kansas City, we're doing it every single day, and where we see ourselves and what we love to do. And so that's what I'm hopeful for. I'm gonna put my energy there, and we can do what we need to do. Policy, voter registration. We can do all those good things, and we'll make some noise there. So that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, well, let's talk more about that. And by the way, Wesley is scheduled to come on the show Monday, I believe. And there was a time where I had Wesley for my weekly audio podcast, Rounding the Bases. And I would guess that was, I'd have to look up the date. It's been a while.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's been long enough that he said in the interview, which went over an hour, I think he said something
Yeah.
about, I'm going to be on this Netflix show, but I can't say what it is. I'm like, what's that? And then we all
Now
came
the
to,
world knows.
the world knows. You know,
Yeah, the world.
if you thought your life had gone public from being private,
Oh, I'm
how
sure. I can
how
only.
about
I can't
Wesley?
even imagine. I can't imagine. It's crazy.
I think I've only watched one full episode of that show,
Mhm.
and I need to watch more. And I watched his
Mhm.
episode.
Uh huh.
Actually, I watched the one with um, the sisters, the barbecue,
Oh
the
yeah. Oh yeah.
barbecue owners, and I still want to get up there. Jones Barbecue, I think it is.
Yes. Yes.
I still need to get up there and check that out. But I
Same.
haven't watched a lot of those shows. But I'll tell you what, like even knowing Wesley's story, when I watched that um, on Queer, I was like, it was emotional, you know, and so
I was crying.
yeah,
I
so was
cried.
I. So was
And
I.
I know him. I'm like, I just saw Wesley like 2 weeks ago, and here I
Doesn't
am on the
matter.
couch watching him, and
Yeah,
I'm crying like I don't
yeah.
even know him. Like it was an out of body experience. It was crazy.
But yeah, no, I actually experienced the same, and I knew the whole story, and I'll hold off if you haven't seen it. I'll ask everybody to watch on Monday. Well, certainly, you know, you can go to check it out on Netflix too. But Wesley's perspective is different than yours. By the way, just because you are black doesn't mean everyone has the exact same perspective, just like us whites. And so,
For
you
sure.
know, Wesley's the guy, and he'll talk about it, I'm sure, on Monday, that thought his life was over, and that's just the way it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
A black man growing up where he did in the neighborhood he did just didn't expect to live a long life. And so there's a
Absolutely.
long discussion there that I'll have with him. But if his smile doesn't bring you in, let alone his story,
Mhm.
I don't know what can,
Absolutely.
because I mean he'll motivate you just by the smile. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
So we've talked about hope. We've talked about steps. I want to, before we talk about a couple of things going on in your world and some events going up, I want to ask the question
Mhm.
this way. For someone like me, and I don't
Mhm.
mean someone that has a podcast or happens to have some social media followers. I'm lucky enough because of the Royals and
For
the
sure.
success of the Royals that I have a following. So I feel like, hopefully some people will listen.
For
But
sure.
there are a lot of people that look like me, that
Mhm.
are well intentioned, that are good, that know
Mhm.
that they should have done better and want to do better. So, what are next steps? Because I will say this, and it showed beautifully in that interview with the two pastors
Yeah.
that I've referenced, that it's a hard conversation or text to reach out to your
Mhm.
black friends
Mhm.
and say, how are you? What can I do? What's going? Many of us have never had a discussion like that on that level. I found myself just reaching out to friends and just sort of saying like, "Hey, I just want to check and see how you're doing." And you know what? I didn't realize how much more I should have been doing before. I want to be better.
For sure.
Um, I don't know that there's a secret. I don't know. I certainly don't have the answers. I just know that sitting
Mhm.
back and being silent isn't right. It never was.
Yeah.
So for people that look or sound like me,
Mhm.
what's your advice?
I think, man, I'm sure a lot of people will first off have a lot of different answers to your
Sure.
question. For me, and I don't speak for everybody. This is my opinion. I think it's you. You work in the sports industry. You work, and hopefully baseball gets their act together, and you guys can start having some games with the empty stadium. I know that's going to be weird, but it's
We'll
how do
take it.
we yeah, how do we take, the executive world leadership and people who talk about our game and not just really like, you know, hey, let's just go get the tour. Hey, let's just go to 18th and Vine, but like really like cultivate this humongous like bash and like super loving and super authentic experience of if a goal of getting I'm exaggerating here, if a goal of getting 5,000 kids from the Kansas City Urban Youth Academy or Big Brothers Big Sisters or any of those things that are like really pouring back into our kids. How can we get them here, and what do we need to do? Some kids never experience a baseball game in their life until they're like grown. So it's those things of like action oriented steps. Now you've probably listened to a couple of podcasts. You probably are reading some books from some recommendations that were given to you. You're probably having some conversations. Like, start taking your everyday life, that $10 that maybe I would spend on Amazon. Like, man, is there a Black owned business that I need to like, that I could get the same thing, that I can go support? Like, let's look at some of the everyday habits that we're doing to incorporate how we're effectively living out what we want to see and what we're saying right now. So you're consciously aware of this is not right. How are we going to implement that? Because every day, we're at work, we pick the kids up. Is it the kid that doesn't have a ride to practice with my son? How can I make sure that he jumps in the car with him? Like, how are we like making ourselves like inconveniencing ourselves, making ourselves grow and uncomfortable to serve people who really need it the most? I think that is the next step. Like, but it's going to look different for every single body because we're all in different areas of Kansas City. So hopefully it's not going to be just like you want to go to the gym and you want to work out. I said this morning on a different podcast. You want that beach body and it's going to take a year for that big trip you got planned. You best believe you're going to be in the gym for a whole year, lifting them weights, getting it right. It's the same thing. You have to develop this new muscle of social injustice. You have to develop this new muscle of, taking proactiveness and like learning, about history and like your world and where you're at and how that applies to you and what can you do. It's a new muscle that we're all having to work, and it's not going to look perfect. Nobody's perfect. I'm not perfect. I don't know it all. But what I do know is you can't really, there's no perfect way to start. So you just have to just do it. You got to do it.
You've gotten to know me at least a little bit now over the last few weeks, and I'll just tell you, I know where you're going with it, that there is no beach body here. So I'm going to give up on that.
I wasn't saying that, Joe, but
I know you weren't. And we'll focus on the rest of it because that seems to be a lost cause. Yes, I do need to get to the gym. I know that's not what you were saying. I'd like to poke fun of myself.
I wasn't saying that.
I know you weren't. Self-deprecation can be a good thing at times, I suppose. Got a text message in from my friend Linda Endicott, who is phenomenal and influential here in town. And she just texted me, Joel, what a powerful interview with Kiona. Simply, beautifully, life-changing, incredibly moved. She brought out the best of you as you highlighted the best of what we white privilege need to embrace. Thank you for your depth. So I appreciate Linda sending that message in, and I just wanted to share it. It came via text, so I couldn't pop it up on the screen, but I just, I think it's important to continue to highlight everything that needs to be done to expose what deserves to be exposed, but also because I think that comments like that, I hope echo at least that there are people out there that want to help with the change and
for sure
are understanding it better now. And so to me, that's important. I want to tell people about your organization, and then I know that you use the same platform as me, so I'm gonna have a little bit of fun here and try to see if we can do that. And so Black Excellence KC founded in 2019, and see a shot of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, and we come down here, and I know where I wanted to click. So if we click on the mission, I messed this up, but I saw somewhere in here I was searching through before, and I saw a good quote from you on there.
Maybe it's under.
Here we go. I believe in providing a community platform where the work of Kansas City business can collectively exist while being united and setting a strategic agenda for our community. Welcome to BXKC. Kiona Sinks, founder. Tell me about Black Excellence KC.
Man, how I explain BXKC is very simple. We all ultimately create out of what we wish we would have had. So when I was on an academic scholarship coming back and forth here to Kansas City, I wish I could have had a convening platform to connect Black Kansas Citians to Kansas City. So if you're like, moving from Cerner and Texas, you should be able to come here to Kansas City. And not that we don't expect for you to know Black Kansas City, but do you know the Negro League Baseball Museum? Do you know the American Jazz Museum? Have you experienced different organizations? Have you been over to volunteer at the Urban League? Have you been to the Youth Academy? So forth and so forth. And so if there's one convening platform that addresses, not perfectly, but gives you a landing space and opportunity to learn and better understand Black Kansas City, that is, in a perfect world, Black Excellence KC, and that's what we're designed to do. So I'm really excited about the organization. We have a little, I guess, somewhat of an announcement coming up soon, so I'm pretty excited about that here in 2 weeks or so. But no, my co-founder Craig Moore, he's brilliant. That website that you was on, he did all that. I can't take any credit.
I don't know how to do that stuff.
Yeah, me neither. But he has kind of been brave enough to go on this journey with me. BXKC is not my full time yet. It's more of a social enterprise. Think of it that way. Big picture wise, would I like to do BXKC full time? Absolutely. So maybe in 1 to 2 years, that's where I'll be. But I'm super excited, super blessed, and so far, people love it. Our last event before COVID-19 was our Q1 event. So it's promoted to connect and convene and amplify the voices of Kansas City professionals. And so what we find is, a lot of people don't just, they're not like me. They're not going to message Joel and say, hey, my name is Kiona, and go for that, or walk up to, Bob or do some of those things, or connect with Nicole or Andre. Sometimes we need to create the space and the platform for people to be able to feel comfortable and be who they are in their skin to do so. And it was amazing. 90 people that I literally did not know showed up to Ambassador Hotel. And to see that room and to see people like you're saying, you're using your platform to meet different people. BXKC is doing the exact same thing, but for the betterment and to further promote Black Kansas City. So we're super excited.
See that June 19th date on upcoming events. Tomorrow is a very significant day in the history of this country. Let's talk a little bit about that virtual event, about Juneteenth, and about voter registration. There's a lot going on right now.
Yeah, Juneteenth, you're commemorating, the end of slavery and just as, Black people built this country. Slaves, I know we don't really talk about it a lot, but that's a time in which a lot of people, we don't talk about enough, unfortunately. I think if we did, and we're starting to, a lot of people will understand why Black Lives Matter more now than ever before, and our ancestors and what they contributed to society. To build this country and for people who look like me to be here. Tomorrow with BXKC, we're doing two things. It's going to be a little crazy day for me tomorrow. Voter registration drive from 3 to 6 p.m. Because although Juneteenth is great and we're celebrating, we want to get people out to vote. So we're going to be literally registering people in 18th and Vine behind the Negro League Baseball Museum from 3 to 6. If you don't know, hey, I don't know, my voter registration is up to date, or, I don't even know if I did it this year. Come see us. We'll take care of you. A lot of young professionals across Kansas City got together and said, we're going to do this. So it's a joint effort with the NAACP of Chapter of Kansas City, BXKC, of course, Jackson County Bar Association, which is an African-American significant organization as well, and none other than the Negro League Baseball Museum. So we're super excited. People are going to drive up in their cars because COVID-19 is still here, and we're going to have some safe procedures in place for people to be able to make sure we get that done for them. And then Q2, we're literally driving, grab a ticket online, and then you can go support a Black business. So we partnered with Soiree, which is an 18th and Vine, KC Kazan food truck. His food is great from what I'm hearing. I have not heard it yet, but that's definitely what I'm going to be eating tomorrow. And then Wings Cafe, and then Elevate Bar and Grill on the KCK side. So it's all on our website, and they got special promotions, like good deals going. So I don't know what those are off the top of my head, but I know that they're listed on our website, and they'll lead you to all those great things.
So I was I was raising my hand for a second because I had to chime in on one
Okay.
thing you were saying,
Yeah.
and so I'm popping this back up here, and everything sounds good. I've not had Casey Cajun either, but I believe that my family's favorite restaurant to say we got to go down there, and it's probably 25 minutes from our house, and bring some food back. If I tell my kids or my wife right now that we're getting Wings Cafe tonight, I will be the most popular person in this household.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
might be what it takes. So for Lee and Ezzy and all those guys over there, I was lucky enough to be turned on to their wings a couple of years ago, and
That's
it's
dope.
one of the great developments in my life. And I know that everybody has their own favorite wings places here in Kansas City. I'm not trying to get in
Yeah.
the middle of all that, like the same thing where when someone asks you what your favorite barbecue place is, that could be a dangerous proposition and one that gets a million answers. Um,
Yeah.
Different opinions and all of that. But I would encourage everyone to try Wings Cafe at some point because
Hmm.
it's one of my favorite places in Kansas City, and I love those guys. So I'm glad that they're
Yeah.
involved with that, and I'm excited for all the events that are going on. So let's wrap it up with this. Let's see. Maybe we'll set a record. See if Kiona can have the longest podcast so far. I knew we'd go long. I had the time.
Yeah,
Which is
I
a
got
good thing.
I carved it out today because I'm like, I don't know how long this is going to be, but no, this was a great conversation. I hope when people go back and listen to this that they really just take something from it.
Just take something. Just take something.
Something,
Like
just
it's
something.
like it's like everything else. Like when I speak, and you're starting to do a lot of speaking now too. You're not asking everybody to walk out of that speech, taking every little thing that you spoke about in a
Yeah,
keynote
no,
and implying it, but you're hoping that they walk out with something, and
something.
that something then turns into more. And so I hope that certainly is the case with this one. I will ask everyone while Kiona's up on screen here with me too, and I try to do this a lot. Share this with your network when you see this pop up on your Facebook feed, or if you're watching it on YouTube, or you're watching it live streaming on Twitter Periscope. Jump in there and click the share button and send it out
Hmm.
to as many people as you can, because I think that's how we start hitting more people with these discussions. And when
Hmm.
I ask what can a guy like me do, I have an idea of what I can do from a media standpoint.
Yeah.
I would like to go further than that, and that means
Hmm.
can I come to some events? Can I help? If the baseball guy showing up helps a little bit and that raises
Yeah.
awareness, then I want to be able to do that. But I think that there are ways
Sure.
for all of us to get involved, and sometimes it could be just as simple. Maybe not everybody has the money to donate. Maybe not everybody has
Absolutely.
whatever it is, but just by sharing an interview, just by getting word out there, just by getting that message out there. And you know what? If you watch, 10 or 15 minutes, or whether you watch an hour, that's fine. Try to pick the
Yeah.
spots where Kiona's talking and I'm not, and you'll learn more. Anyway, so I'm really, I'm really excited for the new friendship that we have. That really, like I said to you at the start of this podcast, I
Hmm.
don't feel like we've been friends for only 3 weeks, and so that
Yeah.
excites me. That where does that look like in a year or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
I'm proud of the work that you're doing, and to have figured out so much, with still so much to figure out too, to have
Hmm.
figured out so much of what you have at 25 that many of us, older people, who I'm in that category now, are
Yeah.
are still trying to figure out. We always continue to learn. So the question, a couple final questions I have. One,
Okay.
do you right now have a favorite? It's going to be a different answer for everyone. A favorite book, a favorite movie, a favorite documentary. I mean, I watched 13th last week,
Okay.
and I feel like I am a better person and a more informed person having watched that.
Hmm.
The sermon or the interview that you sent me of your pastor 83 has made me
Yeah.
a better person by
Mm.
watching that, or a more informed person. I think I'll become better if I do something with it. What is your go-to among the many pieces of literature and books and movies and podcasts and on and on? What's your go-to right now?
I love podcasts. I'm listening to Jamil Hill, which we all know she's in the sports world, but she talks a lot about race relations here. She's been talking about it, but now it's like really heavy. So I listen to her like every week. Tony Gonzalez, of course, former Chief player. I listen to him. He allows me to become motivated and to really like kind of take just me and how do you make you a better person. Because he's like, everything else in your life, if you're great, it'll be great. It'll become great. And so I love that. Books, of course, White Fragility. I'm diving into that now currently. That's like the number one book that I'm telling all my white friends to get is White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. Of course, oh my gosh, there's so many things. Documentary. You said you mentioned 13th. I love that. Another Netflix watch is Who Killed Malcolm X. That was one that was like really great as well. And I love that one. Really gave me a deeper insight in his life. I know we talk about Dr. King a lot, but just understanding his mindset and how he viewed America during the civil rights movement and even after was pretty amazing. That and it's like the list goes on. I'm reading a lot of articles. I try to save them as I go. Of course, you know, I think you told me you keep this on your nightstand. I have it here.
Soul Baseball.
Yeah, I need to actually finish because I've been so like busy. So I have not. So don't judge me. But I'm currently getting ready to start. Right now I'm in a reading group with some ladies, with some older ladies. I'm challenging myself. Small Great Things. So I'm going to dive into this. And another one that I just got was Nobody. And so it's basically just casualties of America war on the vulnerable from Ferguson to Flint and beyond. So these, I'm even learning myself, Joel. I'm taking notes. As much as people are asking me what should they be doing, I'm asking my mentors, my black mentors, what should I be doing? What should I be reading? Because there is this like age, you know, intersectionality thing too, that some of this stuff I was not aware of. So those are some things that I'm currently diving into. And then I try to make sure, you know, like I listen to you, of course, which is weird that I'm telling you that as I'm talking to you. I try to like get a different perspective. Of course, I listen to church. I mean, I sent you some things and how race relates in Christianity and, you know, and all those things. So there's so many things that are going forth. And as I mentioned, I'm doing a workshop on the 29th to help some of my friends so I can give them more. So I'm currently doing some more homework to see what I can do and what I can learn before then. So.
Well, reach out to Kiona if you want to get involved, certainly. bxkc.org. She might even reply to an Instagram message if you send her one because she did that to me. You might, she might. She's a busy woman. And by the way, the book, Small Great Things.
Yes.
I read it already. I read I read that one a couple years ago. My wife had recommended it, and it was amazing. So
I'm excited. It makes me excited.
Yeah, no, you'll enjoy it. It's really good. Well, this has been awesome, and
Great.
I feel privileged in a different way than white privilege. I feel privileged to have the platform that comes with just being on TV and some people knowing who I am. Some, not, you know, not all, and that to just be able to continue to have these discussions, you know.
For sure.
And they'll all have some similarities to them, but they'll all be different too, because
Absolutely.
your story is different than Wesley's story, and on and on, and that's good. I'm gonna track your pastor down. I'm gonna have him on the show because if you know what he and you have in common is an energy. An energy to inspire and motivate people. And so I'm going to track him down, and we're going to keep having these discussions. I don't know if he's watching right now. I followed him on Twitter.
No idea.
If he's watching me right now, Send me a message, Pastor. But we'll get that, and let's just keep trying to work, And
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I'm hopeful that I could be a very small part of it, or as big a part as is needed. And I wish that is something that I had taken more seriously before, but it wasn't enough just to treat people well. So I understand that now, and let's just keep growing, and let's see. It's your generation that's gonna change all of this. I want to believe that, and I heard, who was it recently? Was it the pastor or someone else? So many discussions or watched so many talks of someone that had said that their child was watching something and said, "Oh, it was my guest the other day, Donald Hawkins, my good friend Donald Hawkins, who's an awesome dude, and Donald's brilliant." And he said something about watching something with his daughter, and she said, "I thought Martin Luther King already took care of this."
I know, it broke my heart.
That broke my heart to hear that too. So, I just bring that up because, we're at a moment right now where hopefully things can change, but we've been at moments where things could have changed before. So it's a lot of work. I know you're doing it every single day. I'm grateful for your perspective, your friendship, your availability, and I know that you got a lot going on. So with that said, it's my very long way, like I was introducing you, of saying thank you. Keep doing what you're doing. Oh, I know I had one final question.
Yeah, go for it.
In 10 years from now, when you're the ripe age of 35, you could run for president. That might be a little bit too soon. I don't know. When do we see, when do we see congresswoman, senator, representative, mayor, whatever it is? When do we see Kiona Sinks in the political world?
I don't know. Joel, I don't even know if that's my end goal. I don't know if that's my end goal yet. You know what? I told my friends, they say the same thing. I tell them all the time, if that is what God wants, literally, he would have to like pick me up and like ship me off, and it would have to be so clear for me to really get into politics and try to, create change and go for the big dog in DC. I don't know. That's not something you just wake up and just do. So hopefully, if I do that, I know I'm taking a few people with me for sure. I'm not going by myself. So I do know that if I do in life, I know my perspectives are going to change. I'm going to be a different person as I grow and move forward. And hopefully, if we play this video back, hopefully you keep this in the archives, and we go back and watch this and hear my articulation of this. It'll be interesting to see where we'll be. So that's my thoughts on that.
Well, the beauty of this, it'll be living in YouTube and other places, and so we will go back and hopefully when I reach out to you on Instagram or whatever it's going to be, and that point in the future that you're like, oh wait, I remember that guy.
No, it won't be that way, Joe. It won't be that way. You'll be on the VIP list. We'll get you through, just like the World's Game. Yeah, we'll get you through.
Get me on the VIP list. In the short term, I'll bribe you with wings at Wings Cafe. And,
I'll take it.
Let's do that at some point. All right. Well, I'll let you go. I mean, we've only hit an hour 18. I know we could have gone a lot further. See, here we go again. Tell everybody, promote your podcast.
Oh yeah. Up next. So like you in COVID-19, I missed all of my friends and people, and the list goes on. And I just said, hey, instead of calling people to talk to them, why don't we just jump on the screen? And of course, you just can't do that. You got to ask for people's permission. And the viewership, like just me just doing it, it's insane. I have not put any really marketing muscle behind it yet. We've had some crazy conversations that I was so fortunate that it has matched the current climate of where we are today. So I went and met someone at Big Brothers Big Sisters last week. This tells you like people are listening to this. I don't know who this lady is. She came up to me and she said, "You're Kiona, right?" And I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "Because I thought like maybe I knew her, but I needed to remember, like, did we meet somewhere? And she said, I watch Up Next every night. And I was like, she's like, I just want to say, I'm just enjoying every conversation. She said, you need to keep going. What's next with this? And I'm like, I have no idea, because as we move forward, you know, I'm soon going to be not at home as much. You're not going to be home as much. So this whole podcast thing, we got to figure out. This has become a way for people to connect and listen and grow. Even for me, that's why I listen every day. So, you know, it's new. It's honestly, this might sound crazy. It's uncomfortable for me to do it by myself. Because it's been a growth thing for me to just get out of my comfort zone and have these conversations with people like Michelle Wines and federal judge, the Honorable Judge Wines, and hear their perspectives. You don't get their time. Like, they're busy just like you in their perspective fields. And so to say, oh, you had them on the show, it's crazy. So I'm excited about it. So Up Next, we're doing reruns all this week. We had your episode last night. I re-aired. Because I needed to take 2 weeks off, because clearly I'm trying to do other things. I can't be 3 places at once. But people are watching the episodes because I felt it was important to go back and highlight some of the beginnings that people missed. So I go back and people are watching them every night this week, every night. So I'm excited.
Good. Well, keep doing it. There will continue to be a need for these discussions. We were only reminded a handful of days ago, following the murder of George Floyd, how quickly it happened again in Atlanta. It will happen again somewhere else. I hope it doesn't. It will happen again today or tomorrow or this weekend. It just will. And you know, it's absolutely tragic that it takes those moments to continue to remind us. But it's just important to keep that, I think, in our minds, that, you know, there's a lot of work to be done. I keep saying that. So, all right, Kiona, thank you. Good luck with all of the Juneteenth festivities tomorrow with the voter registration. And you let me know how I can help promote whatever it is, and we'll keep doing it.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. This was great. I'm super excited for our friendship. My sentiments are the same, and thanks for having me. This was a ball.
I enjoyed it too. Thank you. And thanks to all of you for watching today. And just really want to, again, stress to everybody, just share these conversations. We went an hour and 20 minutes. Look, if anyone watches the whole hour and 20 back, great. I'd be thrilled. If you watch 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, just please share this with your networks. And I couldn't do this without the support of my sponsors, JJ's Wine and Spirit, southwest corner of College and Antioch in Overland Park. Check them out. Casey Cattle Company. Just jump onto their Instagram. They got a lot of cool updates on there. Veteran-owned and operated up in Western Missouri. Wagyu beef, steaks, burgers, brats, hot dogs, and they will ship to all 50 states. And a big thanks to Enterprise Bank and Trust. Hashtag no stopping you. Got Buck O'Neill right over my shoulder. He sits there, well, ever since I redesigned this little closet of a studio that I'm in. And we got Salvador Perez back there and the late Giordano Ventura and others too. So hopefully we have baseball soon. We'll continue to have these discussions one way or another once I'm back. The podcast will continue, maybe a different time. We'll have an announcement on that coming up soon. But I'm back tomorrow with another guest. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks to Kiona Sinks. I'm Joel Goldberg, and this has been another episode of Rounding the Bases Live, presented by Enterprise Bank and Trust.